Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the live stream. Um, I'll give everyone some time to come in if anyone has any questions, or before I start, and make sure everyone knows what's happening. Alright, so this is a video that I've been wanting to do for actually some time. I made sure to get the books and to actually pray with them. So first, if you don't know what the breviary is, the breviary is the book. So we'll be looking at those books that you use to pray what's called the daily office or the divine office, which is those prayers that you ideally a priest or monastic prays 7 times a day, which is an old Jewish tradition that's brought into the Catholic Church when Christ comes, and this tradition of praying the Psalms is developed. And there are different options, right? So there are different breviaries available that different traditions use. So there are breviaries that Roman Catholics tend to use, and there are breviaries that Anglicans tend to use, and the Eastern churches tend to use. But for those who are Anglican and specifically in the Catholic expression of the faith, then there are some options that are available for us. And I found that there aren't a lot of videos actually looking at those options, right? What are the ones that are ideal for those who want to pray the hours? Now, of course, the first thing you might think of is the Book of Common Prayer, because that has Matins and Evensong, right? Morning and evening prayer, and that's awesome, right? It has those 2 pillars of the day, and it's great to have that available with all the rest of your prayers. However, what if you want to pray the minor hours, right? So there are other hours to pray throughout the day, and then you're going to want to get a proper breviary. And there are 3 ones that I'm going to be looking at. So I'm going to be looking at the Anglican Breviary, so from the 1950s, and then I'm going to be looking at the Ordinariate's Commonwealth edition of the Daily Office, and then I'm going to be looking at the Anglican Office Book. So, and we'll see what are the upsides, what are the downsides that are going to affect whether you get it or not. Okay. Now, first, just one note of sort of thinking about this. What do we mean by the words Anglican, and what do we mean by the word Catholic? Right, Anglican, right, this expression of the Ecclesia Anglicana, that is how the English Church has prayed, and of course not just the church present in England, but everywhere that it's spread to as well. So in a sense, it's sort of this worldwide church, but this specifically Anglican expression, how is it prayed? And there are going to be 2 balances we're going to see, right? There's going to be some that's going to be like, oh, well, there's how the Anglican Church, some people view this at least, how the Anglican Church prayed before the Reformation, right? That's Anglican. Or after the Reformation, really, that's Anglican. And really, there's going to be like, no, it's just all the Ecclesia Anglicana, right? Just like every church experiences times of renewal and times of dearth and times of controversy. So what is authentically Anglican in the full expression? Second, also, what does it mean to be Catholic, which of course means according to the whole, but the whole what? Well, Catholic meaning what the church has always done, right? Everywhere. What has been believed everywhere, always and by all, that's like Catholic doctrine. And then Catholic worship, what has the church done everywhere? How is it prayed? What we're going to see is there's also going to be a tendency when you try to recover Catholicity, right? So what's a Catholic prayer book? That some people tend to think Roman Catholic. And of course, Rome has its own expression of the faith, right? There's a Roman patrimony as well. But that's not the Catholic patrimony, right? There is, of course, Catholic traditions outside of Rome, right? Rome is not exclusively beholden to it. But we're going to find with our first breviary, in attempting to have sort of this Catholic worship, there's going to be a lot of Rome in it. So first we're going to look at the Anglican Breviary, and we're going to see that here. So we're going to see this very nice volume. It's pretty old. It was printed in 1955. I got it. Well, I got it on used, of course, and just at the right time when I was looking for it, because I'm not sure I could have afforded a new one, which is at $120. So here we're gonna see, right, the different pages. The ribbons are very helpful. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, right, this is based off the Roman Breviary, specifically the pre-55 Roman Breviary. So if you're used to the traditional liturgy, traditional Roman liturgy and the traditional Latin Mass and the traditional Roman Breviary, this is actually going to be a little bit more complicated, because in the 50s and the 60s, to say nothing of the Novus Ordo, there was a massive simplification of the liturgy and of the calendar. So this isn't going to incorporate it, because basically this is a Roman Breviary translated into English. So you see that in, for example, just like the Roman Breviary began with, let's see, yeah, right, we're going to see the different prayers it started with. So we're going to see that it started, the hours tend to start with the Our Father, and then the Hail Mary, and then the Creed. Let's see if I can help you see that, right? That's also going to be there. The rubrics are very similar. I've only prayed the 1960 Roman Breviary, but the rubrics seem very familiar. You can see that, right? Here's what's interesting. The Confiteor is the Roman Confiteor. Now in England, before the Reformation, the Confiteor was actually simpler, and it didn't include all these saints. Of course, it's not going to have a big emphasis on Peter and Paul, right? Peter and Paul were the founders of the Roman Church. Well, obviously, that's going to be important in the Roman liturgy, right? Why would you remove Peter and Paul from the Roman liturgy unless you wanted to be less Roman? Well, here we see it included because it's a translation of the Roman Breviary. It does. What's interesting is that then we go into the rubrics here. So these are the common prayers. Then you see the ordinary of the office. Basically, that's what's going to be always done every time you pray a particular office. So this is going to have Matins, Lauds, Prime, Terce, Sext, None, Vespers, and Compline. So all 7 or 8, depending on how you count it, offices. And with Matins, right, you have the option of 1 to 3 nocturnes depending on the day. And I'm not going to go into a whole deep dive on like Roman liturgy, because that could get very complicated, and I'm not really prepared to do that. It's really something you should just experience if you really want to learn about it and go through the rubrics, so many rubrics. But we see here is that the major hours have 5 psalms at each major hour. So let's go to say Wednesday, and every day, so Sunday through Saturday, is going to have a different psalms they pray and things proper to each individual day. So we found Matins for Wednesday, which of course includes the different nocturnes, which include their scripture verses and sermons. But here we go to Lauds 1, right? So it has Lauds 1 and Lauds 2, right? Lauds 2 is more penitential. Lauds 1 is sort of the standard one. And we see 5 psalms for the major hours. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the chapter. And then the different prayers. So you see, of course, let's see, we've gotten to Lauds 2. Oh, right, it won't be here. But it happens every time, right? The Benedictus, because this is the proper for Wednesday, not the ordinary. Then, actually, let's look at, we've gone to Compline, sure. So Compline, we see our nice 3 psalms, right? That's the shortest office, and but we see that principle, right? So Compline has 3 psalms, and like the other minor hours, the major hours have 5 psalms. Okay. Also, we're going to see different sort of these, maybe you could call them Roman distinctives or just Catholic distinctives. Of course, you have the calendar, right, throughout the year with all the propers. And the commons. And we have, for example, here, the Office for the Dead. which is very, very nice. There we go. Let's see. There we go. And it has also this the Sabbath Office for Our Lady and the octaves. So it's also, of course, going to have those Marian feast days. Up until the end. And then we have the index. So it is a really, what we see there is that it's a very robust office, right? It's meant to be prayed by monastics, which, depending on who you are, it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. What I feel, if you're to ask what is my general opinion of the Anglican Breviary, and in extension the Roman Breviary, is it's too Roman, right? One in the spirituality, because I'm an Anglican, but for example, we see in the Confiteor, right, this Roman Confiteor instead of the Syrian Confiteor, but also the structure, because it doesn't include Cranmer's reforms. And what do I mean by Cranmer's reforms? I mean, if you look at the introduction to the Book of Common Prayer, Cranmer explains why he simplified the daily office into just Matins and Evensong and simplified those offices. It's because you spent more time figuring out how to pray the office, right, moving into the different parts with the different ribbons, than just praying the office. Now, of course, if you're praying the breviary, you're going to move around with ribbons. It's structured prayer. You're going to have to learn how to do that. But it just becomes so complicated. It's good for monastics, right, whose life is devoted to that. Maybe secular priests as well, but not every layman, right? Not every member of the faithful. Is it reasonable to expect to pray the Anglican Breviary? So that's really going to be one of the problems, which actually ends up getting fixed. For example, in the 1960 reform, that's one of the justifications. Of course, Pope John the 23rd didn't cite Cranmer as his inspiration, but it really is what he that's the tune he followed, right? It was for that reason, because it was so difficult to pray and so difficult to use, and he wanted to simplify it. That's why he instituted those reforms. And of course, Cranmer's reasoning then gets incorporated into the liturgical renewal of the 70s, which sadly then abandoned some of Cranmer's things in destroying the liturgy. Which, of course, it was because it wasn't Cranmer, it wasn't Anglican, it was liberal. Okay, so we've looked at the Roman Breviary. The next one, which we'll see here, so we'll move that out of the way. If you want to get this, it's available online for, I believe, $120. If you want to get it used, it's going to be $400. I'm very grateful, again, for how cheap I was able to find this used. So the next one that one may be looking at is the Commonwealth edition of the Ordinariate's daily office. Now, if you're wondering what's the Ordinariate, well, basically, if you are Anglican but would like to be in full communion with Pope Francis, then there's a structure for you to go into. So if you want to be in full communion with Rome, then you go into the Ordinariate, and I could do a whole explanation, but that's not really the place for it. But no, they have their own proper office. And the Ordinariate's what's called the Commonwealth office is really cool. So if we look at it, one, it's beautiful. This is fantastic. This is magnificent. I can't explain how much I just love the structure of it. CTS does a Catholic Truth Society does a very good job at binding books, and it was very clear that whoever made this loved the office. So we have the Divine Worship Daily Office, Commonwealth Edition. This beautiful, well-done artwork, right? You have the papal approval, right? Copyright, table of contents, give you a better view of that. Interesting enough, it includes Prime, which is really cool. So it has the full minor hours. And then you have the approbation. One just maybe weird thing, a cool thing, is that approval is given for, where does it say? There we go. That it fulfills the obligation of the clergy in incarnated into the personal ordinariates to pray the Liturgy of the Hours. That's really cool, right? Now, it says just the daily office, so does it mean this daily office? It says that the Commonwealth edition may be used by the communities of Our Lady of Walsingham, right? But it then says it's permitted for all the ordinariates, so that's interesting. What's also cool is the mention of cum nostra aetate, right, as so being one of the congregations they had to consult. And then you have the general introduction. One purpose of this, which is interesting, is that it was made envisioning Anglicans to be praying it with Roman Catholics. And it's a really good act of ecumenism. It's very honest, faithful, and beautiful expression of ecumenism. So what you have here, if you're wondering, well, what is it? Well, if we look at Matins, so let's go to Matins. It is the 1662 Book of Common Prayer with almost no edits. It's astounding, the fact that they did this. So you have what you would expect in the 1662 office, of course, 1662 because of England. It incorporates, interestingly enough, something that's part of a drafted BCP for England. So that's really cool as an option. And that's also something to note. This has options, but it does a really good job of the options not getting in the way, right? Of the options not crowding everything, of not being like, oh no, what do I pray? Like, no, very clear options. And then other options tucked away if you want to use them, but then they're not crowding the main text. One sad note is that the doxology is not printed. I'm actually considering how faithful it is to the 1662. On a good day, I would maybe say, well, that's probably a printing error, but most certainly Rome could not handle the doxology being in the breviary, even though it's in the Mass, or they didn't want to ask. I don't know why. But of course, you can just pray it, right? Because, again, breviaries aren't these, like, you have to do it this exact way, unless maybe you're a priest, but even then, there's room for custom. Okay, so we have morning prayer, and it's really like you'd expect it. In the 1662, you have the Te Laudamus. You have, of course, you have the Benedicite as an option. You have other options, but they're not here. They're tucked away. So yes, if you really have this devotion, then you can pray those other ones, but they're not in the way, and you can just kind of ignore them if you don't care for them. Same thing. There's a section with supplements that has antiphons and different canticles, but again, it's a supplement. It's in a different section, so it's not crowding the main text. So you see here in Matins, and here what you see is really cool. Prayer for clergy and the people. It is Roman, right? It's part of the Ordinariate. It is a Roman office, so you expect to see the Pope there, right? But he isn't. Again, this isn't some act of schism against Rome. It's simply recognizing it doesn't need to be there. It wasn't in the 1662. We don't need it in the office. So in the prayer for the clergy and people, right, it simply says, send down upon our bishops and curates. And of course, for them, Francis is their bishop, so that's including them, but it doesn't need to be stated because there really is this emphasis of we want to be able to pray together, right? We don't want to cast each other out. We want to be able to pray together, and this does a really good job. Then you have here the optional canticles. So we have the different options if you want it based on the day. And then you have prime. All right, so you see prime. Prime is very nice. So it has, prime here goes through Psalm 119. And then you have here. I am disappointed that for prime, it uses the Roman Confiteor. Which is fine, right? I like the Roman Confiteor, but it is a shame to not see the Sarum, that traditional Anglican edition. So you see these. So you see this in prime, and then it goes on to terse, right? Now, unlike the Roman Breviary, the Ordinariate's Commonwealth doesn't have, right, a different thing for terse every day, or the different office every day. It's the same every day except for some options, of course, in the propers. So we see that. Then the Psalms, and this is the 1662 Coverdale Psalter. The only change, which if you know Rome right now, at least, especially under Ratzinger, under Benedict XVI, had to be made. This cannot, it does not have Jehovah, right, or Yahweh, the Lord's name, where it is indicated in the text. It puts the Lord. But otherwise, it's very beautiful. It's delightful. And there's and they use, right, the Psalter of Cranmer, that is every day, right? So it's the 30-day Psalter. So you see day, 7, evening prayer. Okay, this is really good, right? 1662 BCP, made for use by Anglicans and Romans. Even includes actually Psalms for, or the Feast for America. So actually it's made to be used in every ordinariate, which may explain the previous authorization we saw, because it actually includes everything you need if you're an ordinariate member in America or in England or in Australia. So is there a downside? Well, it is still Roman, right? We see in the Confiteor. The calendar it uses isn't even the traditional Roman calendar, not the 1955 or pre-55 or 1960s. It's the modern Novus Ordo calendar, or lectionary, which is unfortunate. Also, it's because of its ties with Rome, the collects say Holy Spirit, right? Now, there's a rubric saying that you can replace it with Holy Ghost, but it is sort of one of the things you see, right? It still has to work with the Novus Ordo Church. It still has to get passed through these Roman congregations, now dicasteries, I guess. And it's not... You see it, right? You see the Rome, in the modern Rome specifically, not even traditional Rome, in it. Also, you see different instructions, right? So in the absolution, which in part of the Anglican patrimony was that you receive general absolution during the liturgy, that specifically said, like in the rubrics, the priest does not do the sign of the cross because this is not general absolution, which is kind of shows that the Ordinariate has Anglican aesthetics. It's sort of this antiquarianism of Anglicanism, like, oh, look at all these old things. It isn't just that, right? I don't want to, demean them, demean the Ordinariate, but it does show that it's not the full patrimony, right? It isn't full Anglicanism. It's Romanism, and with a lot of Anglican dressing, but hopefully we see some development with that. Also, maybe the one thing I hate the most is it has the lessons. You mean like the readings throughout the year? It has. If this book didn't have it, this would be a lovely, portable, nice breviary. It would be an awesome breviary. But instead, all this, right, let's look at this. All this big chunk here is the lessons. So on the upside, you don't need a Bible. But it's not same on the other side. It's the RSV2 CE. So you have to do, well, you don't have to do it, right? I don't. I just pray from the ESV. If you like the KJV, you can do that, or the ASV. I quite like the ASV. But also just takes up so much space, which really is a shame, right? It would be much more portable. Now, at the same time, I think there are a few reasons for that, because part of the calendar does include like second Esdras or fourth Esdras, which isn't in Roman Catholic Bibles, right? So part of the lectionary retained actually requires books that can't be found in Roman Catholic Bibles. You need Anglican Bibles. So I kind of see why they may not want to deal with it. Maybe they could, of course, just had some pages, right, that have it. But it's just very odd. It's a very odd choice to have it all in there. At that point, you kind of just want a whole Bible, but maybe they couldn't get the licensing agreement. So, and also the RSV2CE seems to be, and they couldn't have known this at the start of the Ordinariates, is being replaced by the ESV CE, which I think is great, right? The ESV is awesome. So, kind of disappointing. So, what's my overall take of the Daily Office Commonwealth edition? It's very good, very faithful to the 1662 BCP, but it's still Roman. Because of that, it's still not Catholic, right? Because of the different rubrics in Roman theology, right? The issues with the prohibition of the general absolution, the Roman Confiteor, the Novus Ordo calendar, the weird departures from Anglicanism where it has to. So it's very nice, but it's still Roman. But I am very happy praying it, especially I have a lot of friends who are Roman Catholic, and this is a very nice middle ground. I really appreciate it. So I pray it in my life. But it still, just has those problems, especially if you're Anglican. Now, I'll just touch on this. Some may wonder, why aren't I reviewing the North American edition, right? North American Ordinariate Office. I'll just say this. The North American edition is based on the 1979 BCP, which is neither Anglican nor Catholic, and because of that, it's going to have these weird departures from the Anglican patrimony and the Anglican tradition and the Catholic tradition. It's the same problems with the 2019 BCP, actually. So because of that, there are going to be the same problems that the Commonwealth has, but then there are going to be departures from Anglicanism, and it's going to be filled with all these options, right? It has all this baggage from the 70s reform, which is also just not a good reform. Also, that's the content. The presentation, it's incomplete, it's ugly, it's not accessible. If you have to pray it, I get it, and I hope it turns out to be beautiful, but they did not consult a good publisher, and the printing wasn't good, and it's taking time for the revisions. I have found that many of my Roman Catholic friends have just settled on something else, and I think that's fine, right? Of course, no, it has never been an understanding, even in the Roman Catholic Church, that you have to pray the official prayer book of your bishop, for example, if you're in the Ordinariate. In fact, I find that I've heard tons of anecdotes about how FSSP priests recommend the Anglican Breviary to people, because the Roman Breviary, of course, is in Latin, right? So they take something that is in its substance very faithful, right, to the Catholic tradition. It has nothing that a Roman Catholic can't pray, the Anglican Breviary, that is, and very traditional FSSP priests will recommend the laity to pray it. And I think that's a good sign, like, hey, like, just go for what's beautiful, right? Don't just care about what's true, what's good, what's beautiful. Care about the good substance of the book. And I find with the North American, it doesn't have good presentation, which is a problem if you really think the substance is good, because then, the outward, really, you're not really giving your best to what you believe is the best. But also, the substance has its problems. But it's not really a consideration for anyone who's actually looking for something Anglican or Catholic, so I'm not going to bother too much with it. Okay, so the last one we're going to look at is the Anglican Office Book. This is delightful. And I'll say, this video isn't sponsored. I wish it was. This was very expensive. I asked for a discount. I didn't get one. That said, it's beautiful. I love it. It's very Anglican. It's very Catholic. So we look at here, right? It's also well produced. Like, I have to say, if you really love the breviary, if you really believe this is our worship and praise and thanksgiving, if you really believe that this is a sacrifice to God, you should show it, right? Put your money where your mouth is. And this did amazing printing, right? It's the binding is good, the material is good, the pages are good. I will say it does have red letters for rubrics. I really wish the red letters we'll see here. This is very light red. This is unpleasantly light red. It can be very difficult to read. Other than that, though, right, that'll be a problem when I'm, 50, and hopefully he'll make a new edition with a darker red, please. But in the meantime, and I'm sure even then you make do without with this light red, but that's right. So there's that. However, it's great, right? So here's what you have. So you may wonder, what BCP is it based off of? So it's based on the 1928, But here's what's cool, right? It does a really good balance with options. So it has here, so we have the rubrics, and it is based off an older calendar with doubles, and that isn't as simplified. So it has instructions for that, which are very helpful. Has introductory material, which I highly recommend reading. And then you have the cycle, or you have the recommended psalms and the lessons for each day. Now, I will say, he has, there's a comment in this book, I forget exactly where he like says, you probably shouldn't do the Psalms here, you should just pray the 30-day Psalter. He's right? The main bulk of it is the Psalms. And what this does, it makes it just sort of, as he mentions, just another lesson. And that's not really what a breviary or the Divine Office is. So it has the 28, but it also has the 1662. So actually, I'll need to look at that, which I will say, very pleasant to hold. It's a very nice size. It's very portable. I can just take it with me. It's really nice. So let's see where, we'll look at the table of contents. Also, beautiful art. Magnificent art. Oh, great recommendations. Top one by my bishop, who's the best. So let's see. We see, let's see. Let's see, we have the calendar, the traditional calendar, the general rubrics, psalms and lessons. Oh, that's a shame. I do remember, I wish I could find it more quickly. Oh, there it is. So it's in the back, which is pretty fitting, because you want the thing that you don't look at as much, right, in the front or the back. You want the book in the middle, because that's best for when you're, for the stress, the kind of stress you put in the binding. So here's what's really cool. Is you have, I misspoke, not the 1662, the 1549 and the 1962 lectionaries. So let's look at that. Has the, oh, there we go. All right. There we go. 1549, if you prefer that. I don't know many people who do, but if you do, it's there, which is really nice. Then you have the 1962, which I believe is Canadian. So you see the introduction to that. And you have it there. Now, of course, with your office, you can pray whatever calendar you want, right? You don't have to pray what's there. However, it's really nice to have that. It's really convenient. Okay, so let's look at, so it has here, well, let's look at the cover page. So we have the devotional offices. So here we see, we have, if that will, there we go, the litany, the penitential office, the prayers and thanksgiving, prayers for families, litany, itinerary, litany, office of the dead, and prayers before and after Holy Communion. I find that I don't use those prayers. They are very nice prayers. They're very good prayers. But I tend to pray psalms myself. However, this is nice to have them because it has the psalms I pray for preparation for Holy Communion and after Holy Communion, and all the other psalms that you'll find in your 1928 Book of Common Prayer. Of course, it doesn't have anything for the Mass, properly speaking. All right, so let's see if I can do this. There we go. So we see here, what is this? The there we go. We found the end. So preparation for Holy Communion, Thanksgiving, and then you have the Psalter. So before you've gotten to any of the offices, you have the Psalter. So the Psalter is before the offices. Just keep that in mind. And then you have the 1928 Coverdale Psalter. It's really nice. Super helpful. It has the days with the more listing Matins and Evensong for each day. And then you have Matins. So it starts with Matins, or the order. Well, the order with some preparatory prayers. and it follows the 1928. However, it has the supplemental material. So, for example, and here's where it does a good job at the different, at having the options and listing the different options, and I think in a way that's more clear than the proper BCP does. Let's see, there we go. And then here, right, general confession. There you go, declaration of absolution. Now, something that is not technically in the 28 BCP, but is often used, is this collect, right? So grant, we beseech thee, rest the Lord of thy faithful people, pardon and peace, right? Which I use when I pray the BCP, but it's not in there, but it's nice, right? You have this material that's very helpful. Then you have the Our Father. Then you have the invitatory, and it has the antiphons if you want them, and it's very helpful in being clear where you want to put them, right? So where to say the whole invitatory, the second part, the whole, and with the 1928, you have two endings. That is, you can either pray the modified version, or you can pray the proper Psalm 95, and I think it lays it out well, where you have the first ending here. No, there we go. You have the first ending here, right? So, O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness, and then instructions for the invitatory, or you have regular Psalm 95. So it makes it very clear. So you have to get used to seeing the different options, but it puts it in a way that makes sense and isn't too in your face, right? And it's not too cluttered with options. So here you have an invitatory hymn for the different days, which you can skip if you don't want to pray it. And then you have the Psalms, the first lesson, and then the canticles. So, of course, you have the Te Deum, the Benedictus Est Domine, and the Benedicite Opera, the second lesson, and then the office hymn. And the office hymn, of course, changes per day, so it's available for you. Right? Second canticle, Benedictus. And I'm showing you all this, right? Why am I showing it? Because I want to just give you a good feel for how the additional stuff is with just what's traditionally in the office. So you have the suffrages, right? And you have instructions on when to pray everything. And then you have the collects at the end. Then you have the anthems at Matins, depending on the season. So you have those options there. And then you have prime. Prime, it's really cool. So what you see is that you can either pray all those psalms, or you can pray the psalms depending on the day. So on Monday, you pray the first part of 119. On Tuesday, you pray the second part. The third part, you pray on Wednesday. And interesting enough, you pray all of them on Sunday, which I have really appreciated. That's actually a really good way to structure the Psalms. And just like the Commonwealth, it does not have Psalms per day, so you pray these same ones every day. But that's a nice middle, right? Because at least if you want different Psalms to pray each day, you can select, it'll be shorter, but you can still use those options. But if you want to pray the same Psalms every day, you can pray all of them. And then it has this, and if you want to do the suffrages, if you want to, then if you want to do the Preziosa, you can, and if you want to do the commemoration of the departed, you can. So then it has terce. Now you don't pray Psalm 119 throughout all the offices, whereas I believe you do in the Commonwealth, right? So you're going to be praying the different Psalms throughout the offices. And you have Evensong, which is a very similar. So I won't bore you just going through each of the details like I did there. And then it has Compline. Well, it has it has the anthems of Evensong, and then it has Compline. Compline is really cool because it has the Sarum Confiteor, right? It's shorter, but that's what was done in the Rite of Salisbury. So what you really feel here, right? I love the 1928 BCP. It takes the Matins and Evensong from the 28 BCP, but it takes the minor hours. It is able to be prayed by the laity. It is authentically Anglican. It is authentically Catholic. It doesn't have silly lectionary issues, right? So if you're going to a proper Orthodox Anglican church, especially in the Continuum, you're going to be familiar with the calendar that it uses, it has reasonable options that aren't too in your face, and it has the materials that are that I think you would want and that you would expect to have. It has, of course, the stuff for the proper seasons throughout the year. It has it has the commons. It does have Compline, right? Proper for the year and proper for the saints. It has, well, let me pick it up and one of the last things I'll show you is let's see. Has the in-text for feast, which is nice. Let's see. Where is it? Let's see. What I want to double check is if it has the Sabbath Office for the Blessed Virgin Mary, which it may or may not. It definitely has Marian anthems, right? So beautiful Marian anthems that you would expect to have in an office, especially a Catholic office. But let's see. There we go, yes. I can show you here. So we see the Saturday Office of Our Lady Mary, and you see it for, which I find interesting that it has first evensong, right? So that's really cool. I didn't even notice that before. It has things for the little hours. So it's really beautiful. So if you want a good office to pray, of course you have especially after Compline, if you want to pray the different anthems depending on the season, it has that, and it has it in Latin, right? So if you have a devotion to Latin, which many Anglicans do, then you can have that. So it's very helpful. It's very beautifully made. It's very faithful to the tradition, both the Anglican and the Catholic tradition. And you can use whatever Bible you want with it. It's very good. It has some, I've heard of some like just printing errors, which of course you can join their Facebook page, which I'll put in the description, which will help you find them. I think they have some errata posted there, which is helpful. So it's just very beautiful. It's very faithful. So my general opinion is that this has the best of both worlds. It's authentically Anglican. It's authentically Catholic. If you really want to, it's very versatile, right? Depending on what tradition you come from, or country you come from specifically. And I would recommend it to anyone. If someone just said, I want to pray the office, right? Give them the Book of Common Prayer, of course. And they're just like, now I really want to pray the full office. Give them the Anglican Office Book, and they will be very at home. So I hope you've enjoyed this, right? The different, I hope you've enjoyed the different offices of the Anglican Breviary, the Commonwealth, and the Anglican Office Book. John Politis asked, what about the English Office Book? Which I actually don't own the English Office Book. I've heard of it. I'll see if I can look it up right quick here. I don't own it, and I haven't heard much about it, which doesn't mean it's not good, but it means that it hasn't come across my radar. I'm willing to review it if someone sends it to me. But looking at it now, it seems like it's hard to find. They're being sold new. Huh. Oh, published in 2006, that's why. That's really cool. If it's the Anglican Office Book, but with the 1662 BCP, that sounds nice. Though, I don't know. I don't know much about it. Yeah. And sorry for not, I don't know when he sent the message, but for whatever reason, I usually have a thing that says I usually have something that's that has my live stream, my live chat, but it's not here for some reason. So, oh well. All right, so I really hope that you appreciate this rundown of the different breviaries, the Anglican Breviary, the Commonwealth, the Anglican Office Book. I know it's a lot, and it's a lot to watch and sort of go through, trying to get the essential points, but not trying to go too in depth into just what a breviary is, because if you're watching this video, you probably know what a breviary is. But trying to give a good sense, how are these unique? What are the different options it allows? What kind of is it leaning into? So I hope you appreciate it, and please follow me on Twitter, and that's where I'm mainly active, but I also have a Facebook and a Instagram page, and also please donate if you want to see more content. This does take money, of course, right? I didn't get paid for this. I didn't get any of these donated. I had to buy all of them, and it's only one, my own income, but also the patrons on Patreon that really make this possible. So I'd really appreciate it if you could help donate anything, even $1, or if it allows you, I don't know if it allows $1, $5, whatever. The minimum helps. So thank you, and I hope you have a blessed day.